are listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. The production team are Angel Moore and Georgia Sutherland. I'm Eve Robinson, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast, and today I'm going to be talking to Baz Cooper. He's from the Network Training Partnership, and we're going to find out all about that from him, so welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice that you're here. Firstly, though, before we get to your the network, I'm terrible. I'm just reading your thing. I'm thinking NTP. I'm going to say that
That's
from
a
now
product.
on.
That's a product.
All right. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, before we get to that, I always like to know a little bit, quite a lot, because I'm nosy, about the people that I'm talking to. So tell me about you.
Nosy is good.
I'm not nosy. I'm curious.
Is,
I'm curious.
Knowledge is power. So I'm Baz. Baz Cooper. Ex-military. So joined the army at 16. Spent 10 years in the military.
Oh, so did you do a lot of travelling?
Yes.
Where did you like best?
Where did I like best?
Or did you just like everywhere? Just like travelling?
Everywhere, everywhere. Yeah. But some of the, I can't say that, some of the worst places in the world as well. So a mixture everywhere, really.
Yeah.
West Africa, to be towards the line, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Luckily, I missed Iraq by 5 days. But that's that, really.
Mm-hmm.
Joined the army, did 10 years in the military, came out of the military, and then I set up a recovery company in Sheffield, and then right up to nearly present day COVID. I lost that during the pandemic, and I fell on hard times, and then I started to look around for other work, and I found a niche in training, and that's where Network Training Partnership comes into.
Okay. So I'm going to still go focusing on you again.
Yeah.
Right. So how was school for you? Growing up.
So I was born in '78.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me about 23.
We never lie about our age.
No.
I'm 68 and I don't care.
That's it. I was adopted at 12 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was fostered at 12 months old, and then adopted when I was about 13, I think it was. And a poor start to life, if I'm completely honest. Yeah. I'm told that I was one of the most neglected children back in that time. And I was passed around different foster homes or care homes, and I had a big lump in the back of my head because I've left in the cot for so long. But then when I was fostered for 12 months, after 12 months, and still now I'm with who I call my mum and dad.
That's nice.
Yeah. Sadly, there was a bit of, during my childhood, I was sexually abused by a family friend, which then, it's not really played a part, but I'm not sure if it has.
Yeah.
But then running up to the mental health that we're going to talk about later on, did it take a toll on it? Yeah. I think it did, yeah. But my mum and dad live in Leicestershire, and that's where I grew up, really. Yeah. So my childhood was a very loving childhood, but some things happened. I think everyone's got a story, if I'm completely honest.
That's true.
Yeah.
So then you left school at what age?
I left at 16.
16, and that's when you went to the military?
Yep, but I left at 15, just before my exams, went back for my exams, and then I was always from a young boy wanted to join the military. Yeah. So I joined at 16 and a half.
So what branch of the military?
I was infantry, I was frontline.
Right, wow, yes, right, okay. that's taken me back a bit, just like, oh, good grief,
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. So yes, you literally did go to some of the worst places.
West Africa, Sierra Leone it was.
So you weren't, it's like, you weren't sort of like, sometimes I know that when I lived in the Caribbean, when it was hurricane season, there was always some forces in the area in case we had a problem, know. And I was thinking, look at that, you're in the Caribbean, but of course it's not all that kind of life, is it? No.
No. West Africa was my worst ever tour. The people were amazing, but obviously when you're at the front line, you see it wasn't really a front line, but you see things. Yeah. And the guys that who took over from us, they got captured, and unbetold things happened to them. And I don't want to really go into that, but it was a scary time. It was a really scary time, and it was odd because we went to the beach once, and the people were so friendly, and we were away from all the trouble, and it was just paradise.
Yes.
You think, how has this country turned to this?
Yeah. But it's one of those strange things. It's like I remember watching the film All Quiet on the Western Front, and there's been various versions. And the last version again was absolutely mesmerising. And the mesmerising thing for me was seeing all the higher echelons of the army and the navy and whatever in these chateaux in France. Asking for port and this, that, and the other. And then the next scene, there you are, people being killed, and it's like where they were, this pocket of safety was fine, but they were still sending people to be. It's terrible.
Crazy.
It's a weird thing, that the people that are actually sort of orchestrating things. And not in the pits.
As sat comfortable.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
So you've been in the military. What made you leave?
It was the same job day in, day out.
Right.
But I could earn more money driving a lorry up and down.
Right.
I came out of the military, got into recruitment straight away. So I didn't want to drive a truck at that point, so I got into recruitment, but ended up driving a lorry eventually. That was it. So it's a different. I left really for a woman. I was married at the time. I'm not married anymore.
But you are engaged to the lovely Jenny, who was on one of our previous shows.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Beautiful lady.
Oh, she is one of the real beautiful souls of the world. Really, I love her.
I do say that things happen for a reason, and I say it often to Jenny. The times that were bad before, previous relationships for both of us, we took strides towards each other even back then, and we came to a point where we've met each other for a reason. I believe that. I'm very happy.
Oh, that's good. So you've been in recruitment and everything, and then the next step, which is the network training partnership.
Well, just before network training partnership, I owned a company called BSC Recovery. It was a number of vehicles that were working for different companies and insurance companies. We were doing 8,000 jobs a year, or roughly around that. And then COVID hit, and we tried to rescue it. I think times got really hard.
Yeah, it was a very difficult time.
Yeah.
There's quite a few things that I'm surprised they survived. It's like I have a lot to do with the Doncaster Theatre.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, the minute COVID hit, what were we going to do?
Yeah.
But thankfully, through the fact that Doncaster has wonderful volunteers who go along there and have kept it running, But it's for businesses and it's such. It was a phenomena that we hope never comes again. But it really did knock some of us to our feet, And I think mental health for a lot of people was definitely impacted by that, because you have no. Sometimes you can think, well, my business isn't working. I could do this and this, but if you're stuck at home, what can you do?
Right. I mean, I'll openly admit and tell you the darkest of darks. First week, I thought it was funny. I thought, here we go. We've got a couple of weeks off.
Yeah.
And I sat in the sunshine.
I think a lot of people thought that.
And drank lots of beer and did other things I shouldn't have been doing, recreational wise, and it just started to take over, I think. Mm-hmm. Then jobs come in, and I noticed that money wasn't coming in as quick as what it should have been. Obviously, the job numbers have fallen.
Yeah.
And then I thought, hold on, we need to get hold of this. And when we came out of COVID with the company, but it was just too little, too late.
Yeah.
The wages, the rent, the finance for the trucks, and the money we had from the bank, it just swallowed it whole.
Yeah.
Just took it all.
Yeah.
And I thought, what am I going to do? I remember, and not many people know this, I remember begging for money from a company at 4:05 on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And at I had to pay wages on a Friday.
Yeah.
At 4:55 they paid.
Yeah.
And I thought, paid the wages, but there was nothing left.
No.
What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
It was hard times, and I never really came out of it. I ended up living in a caravan in the yard, trying to save the business, but I just couldn't save it. It's too little, too late.
Yeah.
And I was trying to mask things with alcohol abuse, substance abuse as well, and I was just a different character, different person.
Yeah.
And mistakes were made.
Yeah.
And I'll stand
And what
up
pulled you out of that then? What made you think I've got to stop? Drinks, drugs, whatever.
Well, I stopped taking as much because I needed to live.
Mm-hmm.
I got a job working for someone else for driving a truck up and down the country, but all it did was rather than stretch it out over a week, for argument's sake, I'd live in a lorry for a week.
Yeah.
Rather than spread out the week, I'd come back on a Friday, hit it hard.
Yeah.
Sunday, I'd go back to the day job. I'd be knackered.
Mm-hmm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, come out of it, feel fresh Thursday, Friday. But guess what? Friday's back.
Yeah.
Start again.
Yeah.
And I was in this constant loop. And then one day I just completely self-destructed. I'd got loads of stuff that I shouldn't really have had. And I took most of it in a period of 3 or 4 days. And I went. It's like a dream when I start always talk about this. They call it psychosis, drug psychosis.
Yeah.
And I believed I was under attack. I think it was for about 6 hours. I was running around in my underpants with an axe. There's an image for you. And I thought I was like Conan the Barbarian running around with this axe. My partner at the time got the dog and ran off. Well, she didn't run off. She left.
Yeah.
She felt
Found
quite
safety
rightly,
for herself.
100%. And I still believed I was under attack. I phoned the police and myself. The police turned up. Didn't take the axe off me. Well, they took the axe off me, but didn't take me away.
Yeah.
Probably because they thought I was under the influence of something, and there's no point in sitting in hospital.
No.
So they left me. Took me into bed actually. Put me into bed, and I sat there. And I still have no children, but there's a child in the garden. I don't know where she came from, but I thought, who's this child?
Yeah.
But it was all in my mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Including the attack that I thought was happening.
Yeah.
Then I thought there was someone in the loft. I thought someone was trying to steal the van outside. I just saw loads of different things that wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for some reason, a guy turned up on a push bike, and he was dressed as a Jewish guy with a big hat.
Yeah.
And he said, "Are you Baz Cooper?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Come on, that's enough now." I said, "What?" He said, "Come on." He grabbed me by the wrist, took me upstairs, put me in bed, took me in like I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And he said, "I want sardines and dragon's teeth for breakfast." I went, "Okay." And the substance I was taking, I shouldn't have slept.
Yeah.
But my body, I think, at that point, had just shut down. And I went to sleep. And I woke up, and my ex-partner at the time, she came out. She goes, "I need to ring an ambulance to get your help." She'd obviously come back.
Yeah.
And the ambulance came and took me away. Took me to Rotherham Hospital, where I was treated just like a drug addict.
Yeah.
But my wheels are I just self-destructed. My
Yeah.
wheels had come off.
Yeah. It's quite a different thing if you've,
Yeah. And I had a military veteran hoodie on. And they kept peering at me, and I had to ask 6 times for a sandwich. And it was, as far as they were concerned, I was a drug addict. There was no care there. And I was.
That's a pity, because very often there is care. But obviously you didn't encounter.
I didn't think it at the time, so
No.
I was very conscious about me taking a bed. I was there, I think, about 15 hours. And I came out and said, "I'm so sorry for taking a bed." And the nurse at the time, she just looked at me and went, "Yeah, don't worry about it." And I felt like something on the bottom of a shoe.
Yeah.
And then, literally, I felt like a big kick up the arse to get out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I was stood outside the hospital thinking, where do I go? What do I do? And if I was running under your street in your underpants with an axe, you'd want to know where I was.
Yes.
I mean, being locked up, but I wasn't. And I thought, where do I go?
Well, cared for at least.
At least, yeah.
Especially in this day and age, it's not really a locking up thing. It's let's see why this is happening.
Yeah. That's all I wanted, was someone to put their arm around me and say, "Are you okay? What's brought this on?"
Yeah.
But there was none of that until later on. I mean, my partner at the time picked me up, took me back to the house, and she said, "I can't be in the same house with you." She left me alone, but rang her 2 friends, 2 valued friends, who came and picked me up. But I was asleep. People were ringing me, messaging, but I was out of it. And they burst in my bedroom to get me, and I thought I was back under attack.
Right.
I tried to get under the bed, but they both hugged me. I get emotional when I say this. Hugged me and said, "It's okay. It's Chris. It's Blue. It's okay. We're all right. We're going to take you away. It's for safe. Take you somewhere safe."
Yeah.
And I went to live with Blue for 4 months. I was technically homeless.
Right. Yeah.
Where I was just sofa surfing. You can see the tears coming in my eyes. And that's how it changed for me. I didn't have to go to rehab or anything like that.
No.
It took me out of the environment. It took me away from everything. I mean, I'm not talking bad about my ex-partner.
No.
Everything had gone wrong.
Yeah.
So both of us were trying to look after each other.
Yeah.
Not each other, trying to look after ourselves.
Yes, of course.
And communications broke down. That was the end of that relationship. And technically, I was homeless. I lost everything. Everything had gone. The trucks had gone as well before that, but
yeah.
So it was.
That was the culmination.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't take any more of this.
And then I've been probably about 650 days clean so far. I could look at my phone and find out the days. But
keep on keeping on.
Yeah. I drink, but I drink in moderation now rather than craziness. And that's why the mental health things with the network training partnership, because I've got lived experience.
Yeah.
And thanks to the People Focus group in Doncaster.
Yes, we've interviewed them as well. Yeah. Glyn did a brilliant podcast actually.
Did he?
He did. He was very good.
He is good. Yeah. And he's Glyn is actually the first person who said, "You're an addict." And I said, "I'm not." He went, "You are. You're an addict. You can't go back now." And I thought, and I remember walking away thinking, "How dare you say that?" Do you know what?
Probably one of the best things that's been said to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it struck a chord. I thought, no, I'm not. And I sat my own for a bit thinking about it. I thought, you know what? He's right.
I think it's, one of the things that one of my ex-partners famously has had is part of AA and all this thing. So I'm not talking out of turn. But the thing that I think happens with people when you say alcoholic is you get an idea of. There was an old comedian, I think, called Freddie Frinton, who was like this with his fag and hanging on a lamppost. There's so many different types of alcoholics. You can be a functioning alcoholic. You can be a functioning addict who I binge or I only do it at the weekends, and my family aren't affected. That kind of thing. But the fact is, we have a perception, or there is a perception that it's something, and until you're in it, you don't realise what it is. Addiction is, or being an addict or being an alcoholic.
Yeah, 100%,
And somebody like Glenn, he just cuts through it all, doesn't he? It's like,
100%.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Well, Glenn put me on a web call to a lot of Ardash.
Yeah.
And I spoke about what had happened to me, and they said, "Oh, we're so sorry you felt the way you did in the hospital." And part of the talking about it straight away was dragging me out. I think, oh, hang on, I like talking about the past. And then when we do the network training partnership mental health course with RAC and things like that, guys will go, "Oh God, mental health." But do you know what? I gauge the group, and if I have to tell my story, I tell my story, and it changes the whole dynamics of the group.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, this guy who's talking has been there and done it. And I've had guys, can I talk to you at the end? Yeah, of course you can. And they talk, some cry, some don't cry, some will message and email and stuff like that. I just want a bit of help. And that's
because it's recognition, isn't it? You can, and like you say, I know Glenn saw it in you, but the thing is, it's like sometimes you cannot recognise it in yourself because you're functioning.
Yeah.
And you're doing okay. And I think that when you meet other people, the one thing that they teach you is that you have to be aware of it every day.
Yeah.
Because if you're not aware of it every day, that tomorrow you might think, well, I need a reward for what I've done today, and you don't need that reward, do you?
So some people, Instagram and things like social media, you see things and I laugh and think, God. So sometimes you had a bad day. Oh, let's go to the pub. Let's have a beer. Once you have a beer, you have something else to add to that beer because you've had a bad day. That'll cheer us up. But then you have a good day. Let's celebrate. Let's have a beer. What goes with the beer? So either way, you're in. Yeah. It's
I always think I consider myself really lucky. I come from a family that aren't drinkers. My dad didn't drink. My mum didn't drink. And I think it helped me a lot because I worked in the music industry, and it was very prevalent. And then you when you don't do it, you realise that I'm as happy as that person, but tomorrow I'll still have money in my pocket, and you know what? I won't have a hangover either. And particularly with the studio that I worked in, one of the things was if people did a lot of drugs, then all that happened was you sat there listening to them recording rubbish that they think is good, and then 2 days later, you've got to say, you know what we did the other day? Listen to this. It's
right.
So you have to maintain your sobriety, and you have to keep. It's a treasure, isn't it? You've got to look after it.
100%.
Yeah.
It's special. I mean, I've been given drugs in my hand, and I've looked at it and gone, I don't want that. Why do I want that? And I've been right on the edge sometimes.
Yeah.
I think twice I've been on the edge, but hold on, all the hard work that I've done. Yeah. That should be wasted.
Yeah, that's right.
I've let so many
those,
people
those
down.
Those days that are counting on your phone that you know. And the thing is, it's like everybody I've ever seen interviewed about coming off drugs or coming off, they always say it was a humbling experience, and I've been through it now, and none of them say they want to go back.
No.
None of them, I remember I saw something recently with David Bowie, and he was saying that, they said, don't you have one drink? He says, one drink could kill me. He said, I've got family, I've got friends, I've got my career. I don't need that now. I wasn't in control. He said, I did have a career, but I wasn't in control, and I didn't have proper family.
Yeah.
And it's all, love is so important.
100%.
It makes such a difference.
100%.
And it's hard. And again, with relationships, they take maintenance all the time. And if you are taking substances, if you are out of it sometimes, how can you be maintaining? How do you know when somebody walks in from work and says they've had a bad day if you're just out of it?
Yeah, that's right.
You've got it's all a matter of staying in the moment and positive, and you can't stay in the moment. Drugs can.
No, next level.
Yeah. So right, I'm glad. Actually, that's been a brilliant bit of chat. But let's talk a little bit about your network training partnership coming up now.
Yeah. So network training partnership. I was doing a job for a year, and I needed to get out of what I was doing. And they said I worked for someone else for a little bit, but it wasn't very good. And the network training partnership said, look, we've got this job coming up. Do you want to do it? So let's have a go. And it turns out I'm a natural. So we work with national highways, we work with police officers, and we work with brilliant recovery companies across the country, all doing training and safety related training. We work with different councils with minibuses and the customers that they pick up and drop off, and all things like that. But the mental health one at the moment, we've got coming up in May the 16th. We want to put a mental health get together or workshop in Doncaster. And I'm going to tell my story, I'm going to get other people to tell their story. And I want everyone, even the community, to come together to all work together and say, right, if I've got a problem, I know where to go to.
And that's coming up in May, you say?
Yes, it is.
And have you got a venue yet?
No, not yet, no, so I need a venue.
Yeah, but there's some really good venues, isn't there, Doncaster? Corn Exchange, all new, people coming in. And because that's the thing, you want it to be that people come through and they see it and they pick up a leaflet. Because the thing about something like this is if you've got everything together, then you're probably going to address several people's different views of what they need from their mental health.
Yeah, 100%. Everyone's unique, aren't they? Everyone's different. Like we said at the start, everyone's got the story. My story is slightly different to everyone else's, but everyone's got a unique thing that's happened to them in their life. And maybe one day they might say, "Oh, I knew at that event that Baz did. I picked that leaflet up. Can I ring that number?"
So having them all together would be fantastic. I
want to get as many people as I can together. I'm a bit scared, but it's a risk.
I know, but it's like, I always think of this. Somebody decided that the first time they were going to do Glastonbury, have some people play in a field. Look at it now. We're all waiting for the tickets to go on sale, and we're all, and of course all those older people like myself will say it's not like it used to be. That doesn't mean I don't. As soon as they're selling the tickets, I'm not there. So the first time you do something, yes, it is difficult, and it might not be big. I mean, when I think back to when you look back at the first Glastonbury I ever went to. There really wasn't very many people there. There weren't very many people on the stage. Never mind, But you build something up. I know this isn't a music thing, but the thing is, it's got that kind of feeling where you're doing something really good and people will get something from it.
100%. And that's what the idea of it is. I mean, we've got something in Leicester that's going to be done at a company and work with a company for the mental health. And on the Friday of that week, we're in Doncaster and I'll make this big event. So within the network training, then you also do look after people's mental health. It's something that you feel is very important. 100%. Anyone that comes on a course and they have my number anyway, and if they ever want mentoring or someone to cry on the shoulder for argument's sake, that's there. My number's there all the time.
And if with the network training. Because you've sort of touched on the drug thing, is that also something that you work with?
Alcohol, drugs, and even down to diet and well-being. That's what we talk about in mental health.
Because it is a holistic approach to to looking after people.
Like I said, from the experience that I've had, or like I mentioned, then as soon as you have a drink, the other things attached, the drugs attached. I had to disassociate. Them because how can I go on? Can't go to the pub. Some people will find it hard to go to the pub and not have a drink. But I disassociated.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I've never been a drinker. Anybody that knows me knows that if I go out to a pub, I need a hot water. That's what I drink. I like hot water. But when I first came back, I used to live in the Caribbean. When I first came back to the Caribbean, if I said to somebody, "If this is what you want to drink," I said, "I'll have a hot water." They were like, "Don't be so stupid. No, but you can't have a hot water." I said, "Well, that's what I want." And if I even said a soft drink, they'd say, "Oh, no, that's not a drink. I'm not buying you that." And it's like, but that's what I want. But at least things have changed in that direction to a certain extent, where people try not to push you too much. Well, they don't push me, you know. But
there is a stigma, isn't it? There is.
Yeah. It's almost like and I've still to this day. And this happens to me very regularly. There's a group of us that go out, a group of us from Sheffield, and there's one person who always says to me, "You're so boring. You never drink."
Oh, that's horrible.
And I think to myself, do you know what? The one thing I think about me is I don't think I could be called boring. You know, I could be called all sorts of things, but because I won't have a drink, I must be boring.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right. Yeah.
You know,
it's like if you've had a mental health issue.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's. What do you say? Someone said, "Oh, he's bonkers." You can't say that.
No,
you can't say that.
No.
Or like you said, you're not had a drink. Or you're boring. You are.
Yeah.
Or you're having a Coke. What?
Yeah.
Well,
Come and put something in it. And when they say not, I say, you know what? The day you see me out and I'm not enjoying myself, if you want, you can get me a drink then.
Yeah.
Because if I've come out to enjoy myself. It's like, you know, I mean, you know, I went to a party and Peter Kay was there and he doesn't drink.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "You don't drink, do you?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "They probably don't let you." Can't imagine what you'd be like if you had a drink, you know. And the thing is, if you're enjoying life, I mean, I know it's not the same for everybody. You know, we all know that there's no rhyme or reason why some people cannot tolerate alcohol, cannot tolerate, you know. Well, I don't know so much about drugs in a way, but you know, with alcohol, why is it that some people can just socially drink, and it's all right? Because their makeup is different, their chemicals are different in their body and everything, so it's different. But you know, when somebody sort of labels you and says, "Oh, don't you have a drink? You're boring." You know, it's like, wait a minute, you know.
You have no water.
Yeah,
what?
you know,
Leave me alone. That's what I want.
And so you tend, and then that's that thing of saying, "Oh well, I'm on dry so and so, or I do this." And it's like I don't do any of that anymore. It's just like I just don't drink. Okay, deal with it. You know. Yeah.
But there's times before I used to have a pint, two swigs of a pint, and it'd be gone. Wow. And now I'm a lot slower.
Yeah.
And you think, what was I doing back then?
Yeah, not appreciating it. That's for start because you're just guzzling it down, really. You know,
to
get to a certain point. And
just to make myself a bit happy, or to forget something.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I think whenever you look back, you realise that, well, I wasn't happy because if I'd been happy, I wouldn't spend money on that kind of stuff. You know.
100%. I must have been looking back. The times I think I was a completely different person. Yeah. Completely, and it was embarrassing to look back now and think, what was I doing?
Yeah.
What a car crash! That's what it was.
Yeah.
A slow car crash.
Yeah.
You know, and all the people I've hurt over the time, and you think, oh no.
I know, but you can always make amends.
Yeah.
You know?
And I've said sorry to loads of people over the years, and some people have said it's all right. Some of us crash and burn.
Yeah.
And you think, okay.
Yeah.
And then a couple of them, I thought, oh, God, I've got to say sorry to him. I've got to.
Yeah.
Have to.
You do. Yeah.
And some of them have gone, yeah, don't worry about it, it's fine. I didn't even think anything of it.
Yeah.
And I made it a problem for myself.
Yes, yeah.
And one recently, and I'll say his name, Ben, I was dreading saying sorry to him, and he said, oh, don't worry, you look the happiest you've ever seen you.
Oh, that's
and I thought,
nice. That's good, yeah.
It was really nice to hear.
It's good when people understand. I mean, I sound like I'm name dropping here, but Elton John recorded at the studio that I worked at. We did 3 albums there. And at the time, and this is well documented, that he was a coke addict. So he came with this briefcase with all this cocaine and said, I know it's Christmas, and I bought you this because I noticed you don't do any drugs. I said, well, I don't do any anyway, so he did whatever he did with them. But he bought me these beautiful diamonds.
Yep.
And years later he said, you've still got the diamonds, and I had to go to rehab. And to me, it's like, yeah, that's the thing. If you keep control of your life, then get the diamonds in your life.
Yeah.
You've got a diamond.
Definitely got a diamond.
I'm talking about his girlfriend because honestly, listen to her podcast and she's just one of the most. She's just got a lot of inspiration, hasn't she?
Yeah.
You know.
It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to tell us about your about you and the business, or you want to reiterate that you want to get people in for this?
Yep. I want to reiterate that Network Training Partnership are going to be putting together a mental health workshop or a day in Doncaster, venue to be confirmed. We're going to try and help as many people as we possibly can. Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to being part of that. I'll definitely come along and see what you're doing. And it's been really, really nice. And thank you so much for opening up.
No, that's all right.
That's important. You know, it's like you were saying, you know, with the way Glenn came into our story. That's lovely because that's all part of what we've been doing anyway. But it's wonderful to see that you've been through that, and you've obviously seen some terrible things and blah 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 and everything.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of reasons why you did unravel, but that's the past. That's wonderful.
It's the
I'm
past,
so
yeah.
pleased.
We
That's
look forward,
wonderful.
not back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All
Take
right,
care.
thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. Today's guest details can be found in the bio.